Before we begin, the name is placed on the top right side of the screen. The story of the Cyan Kingdom. Long ago on the Mu continent, there was a kingdom called Cyan, and in it lived a princess with shiny golden eyes and hair. Her name was Princess Soria. When she came of age, the kingdom held a huge party for her. But in the middle of the celebration, an uninvited mage appeared. Fearful of the growth of a princess whose magic was stronger than his own, the mage put a spell on her. Then the kingdom became indulged in tall thorny bushes, and the land could no longer support human life. Like that, no one remained in Cyan besides the cursed royals who stayed behind to protect their white castle. And the question, what happened to the princess? A girl is out there as she mentions there is no end to this. She hears a voice and looks above in the sky. Finding the barrier broken, she becomes surprised as she starts running. She mentions that at last the hero is here. It has been 147 years and 3 days since this miserable life began. She becomes happy, thinking that she can finally break the curse. She sits down, while pondering that he is coming. A man steps in the room. His face is full of surprise. The girl has changed the presence of a chicken. He glances around as she thinks. Judging from his clothes, there is no doubt that he is the hero. But he does not have any weapons. She wonders if he is a mage. She notices an emblem, wondering what is that. The man seems pretty annoyed as he questions if they were tricked after all. Questions if all of his night sacrifices were for nothing. He mentions that the only thing here is the chicken. She yells at him, stating how rude is he. This causes him to be startled. Right then, a guard burst in, calling him His Majesty and questioning how could he go off on his own. The man asks Paul to give him his word right now as there's a cursed chicken here. Paul asks him what is he talking about. The chicken states that he shows such disrespect to the sole heir of the Cyan Kingdom. She scares them and yells at them to repent for their sin. They both run away, stating that chicken is crazy. After a while, she introduces herself as Soria Brian Vishian. His questions, were not they supposed to find a sleeping princess? Orwell responds, that is what they were told. His Majesty is losing his mind. He states no matter the rumors, what is important is that the princess is here, even though she is a chicken. She asks him, did he say that he was the Emperor of Croatia? She questions what gives him the right to disrespect a royal of a kingdom that is not even one of his vassal states. He glares at her and asks her can she even call a country with nothing but thorn bushes an actual kingdom. Orwell states that he can only joke around for so long before it stops being funny. His Majesty asks Orwell what is he on about, questioning when did he joke around. Orwell responds he has been doing that for the past few minutes as he has been talking to that chicken, stating that he should remember that his knights are watching him. His Majesty then points at the chicken, questioning, but has he not been listening? She says she's the only surviving royal of the Cyan Kingdom. The knights think that His Majesty has gone insane, wondering how this could happen, and maybe the long journey must have taken quite a toll on him. His Majesty wonders did no one else hear her speak. He touches the chicken right then, causing her to be startled. She ends up using her magic, causing a blast. Orwell steps in and helps him out, asking His Majesty to forgive him as he should never have doubted him. Orwell asks the knights what are they waiting for, telling them to draw their swords as it is an attack magic. They mentioned that His Majesty was right, that chicken is Princess Soria, and they must capture her. She tries to run away as she thinks she should not have gotten her hopes up. She thinks those brutes cannot possibly be the heroes who break her curse. She wonders why did she ever believe that stupid mage's words. The knights step in, asking His Majesty if he is all right. His Majesty questions where is the chicken. Orwell tells him that she got away, but they will catch her soon and give him his cloak. But ask him, how did he know that the chicken was Princess Soria? His Majesty responds she was the one who told him. Orwell still seems pretty startled, but His Majesty asks him to forget it, as why ask him if he's not even going to believe him. Orwell responds, of course he believes him, but it is just very outlandish. He asks His Majesty, where is he going? His Majesty tells them to not follow him. It is not that he does not trust you all, but they cannot afford to waste any more time, so he'll deal with the princess himself. His Majesty is aware that she escaped through the back window, so she must have gone to the back garden or the main palace. He looks at a painting as he mentions he cannot believe this, as how could this lady and that chicken be the same person? He notices a feather on the side and finds a lot more on the ground. He questions if she is just asking to be captured. He tells her that he would like to talk to her and call her princess. She seems to be stuck in the ground. He also reminds her that she should know better than anyone that running away will not solve anything. He takes her out and asks her that they should pretend the incident back in that room never happened, and he is sure they were both rather alarmed. She questions what he responds that he is saying he will overlook what she did back there. She asks him if he is serious. She wonders if he is saying that her magic was so non-threatening that he can just easily forgive it. She used to be called a genius mage. If only she did not look like this, she knows he would have shown her more respect. She tells him to leave her alone, stating that she is already beyond embarrassed that she got stuck in that hole, so he should stop talking to her and just go away. He looks at that hole. It clearly looks small enough for a chicken to get stuck in. He mentions at least she did not get completely jammed in, causing her to be more angry as she asks him to shut up, and questions if he has to point that out. He apologizes to her. Before he can say anything, she starts ranting about how she cannot even die, and she keeps gaining weight, but the only food that she had was a bunch of grass. He asks her if all she has been eating is grass. She responds yes, that is right, with tears in her eyes. He mentions that it must have been hard for her, before he can continue talking about something important. She again states of course it was hard for her, and asked him has he ever had a random mage he has never even seen before to come up to him and confess their love. He tells her there are no female mages at the Imperial Palace. She questions, what about being curious for rejecting their love? He tells her he thought that mage was just jealous of her magic. She asks him what is he talking about. She asks him if that is what people think happened, as she turned into a chicken because she lost to him. He tells her that people know it as a fact actually. He then asks her about this. If she gets rid of all the thorn bushes covering the Cyan Kingdom, he will take care of that rumor. She questions that he said he is the Emperor of Croatia, right? She states it sounds to her like he is just trying to conquer her kingdom. She mentions that it is a shame on him and jumps away. She ponders that it is never going to happen on her watch, and she'll do her best to run away before she has been catched in his hand. He tells her that she is just a hen, not a hawk, and takes her away. She has been locked up in a cage. His hair has been damaged because of her magic. He tells her that he has no plans to conquer the Cyan Kingdom. He questions why would she make such a ridiculous assumption. She asks him how is she supposed to trust that after she gets rid of the thorn bushes, his army will not immediately invade her country. He states sorry to break it to her, but they do not even need to go that far. As time goes by, the Cyan Kingdom will naturally become a part of the Empire. He tells her that he will ask her this, how is she going to protect and maintain this kingdom? When no one lives here anymore, she is all alone. She responds that the descendants of Cyan's people will return. He questions if she is sure about that. She tells him yes. This land and its rulers still remain, so she believes that once her curse is lifted, those who grew up listening to the stories of Cyan passed on by their ancestors will come back in search of their roots. He tells her fine, he will let her see if her belief turns out to be true, as long as the curse that has been causing a blockage in the midstream of the river is taken care of. So how about she gets rid of the thorn bushes now? She questions how many times must she tell him that she cannot? She tells him that it would be possible if she was not under this curse, but right now she has very little control over her mana. He asks her. In other words, she can only do it once her curse is lifted. She responds yes, that is true, and she needs a hero for that. He asks her if only a hero can break the curse. A hero, a warrior, a knight, it does not matter. He thinks about a hero before he mentions a knight is possible, but they do not live in a time where her typical heroes and warriors exist. Aurora tells His Majesty to please make haste as they must leave soon. His Majesty then tells Aurora that, come to think of it, he has also practiced swordplay before. He responds that is right, then that technically makes him a knight as well. Aurora seems confused as he mentions he does not think that is how that works. His Majesty tells him that he needs something more official. How about he formally knight him right here, right now? Oliver is shocked as His Majesty questions. He does not see why he cannot. He will bestow upon his honor of being the Empire's first knighted Grand Mage. Orwell is pretty shocked as he responds. All right, His Majesty places his hand on his shoulder, telling him he knew he was the one all along. Orwell questions the one for what? His Majesty states to be the hero, warrior, and knight who will go on to break the curse. He states that he now present to him the opportunity to break the princess curse, telling him to give the princess a kiss of oath. Orwell is shocked as he wonders what the hell is wrong with His Majesty. He drops all the book and then questions why is His Majesty so short that this chicken is Princess Soria. His Majesty tells him that the chicken said it herself. Orwell is aware that all he hears is chicken noises. Orwell then asks His Majesty if he can then ask her a question for him. He questions what is the most difficult magic potion to make. She responds it is a love potion, that he can hear the confusion in His Majesty's voice. He does not even believe such a portion exists. If he can really communicate with her, then Orwell tells him that he cannot converse with Princess Soria, and asks His Majesty to forgive him, nor can he even begin to understand her intentions. And based on his humble observation, it seems that he is the one who is destined for her. This causes her to be shocked. Orwell also states otherwise. Why would he be the only person who can communicate with her? So why don't he be the one before His Majesty and the chicken strongly disagree, stating this can never happen. He states that he is not going to kiss a chicken things, so all that talk was just his way of making him kiss an animal in his stead. Orwell decided to write a letter of resignation as soon as he got back to the Empire. She is out of the cage as His Majesty questions why don't they save the kiss for another day. She responds that she thought he would never ask. His Majesty is informed that it is time to leave now. His Majesty tells the princess that they should go now. Before that, Orwell tells His Majesty that there is something he should know regarding the princess's transport. His Majesty picks her up as she stares at him, questioning if this is how he treats the princess of a kingdom. He responds this is for the best. His Majesty mentions that she is not a prisoner of war or anything, so they cannot exactly transport a royal in a bird cage, not that they can transport a chicken by horse or carriage either. This causes her to be angry as His Majesty tells him that being angry will not get her anywhere and tries to touch her before she attacks him. He yells at her, asking her what is the meaning of this. She tells him to stop petting her and grab the reins. She mentions that she is only putting up with him until they get out of here because of her curse. He states in case she did not know, if she calls an emperor physical harm, it is usually considered treason. She tells him to then punish her. He asks, "Sir, what does this mean?" She tells him that by all means, go ahead. If he does not mind going down in history as the Empire's first ruler to punish a chicken for treason, then that is. He thinks about it, realizing that won't end up good. He tells her that she is very dreadful. She notices somewhere questioning what is with this formation. Since they need to fight their way through as fast as possible, they threw away all the unnecessary baggage. The princess questions what does he mean by fight his way through, asking if things are that bad. He asks her why does she think he came all this way himself. He also tells her to not worry, as that is precisely why he brought Orwell along. Despite how he may appear, he is still a grand mage, and he is carrying lots of jewels that belong to the imperial family, so he'd better do his part. Princess is shocked as she questions if that is the case, then all of those jewels are all mana stones, amounting to half a year's worth of the Empire's budget. She wonders if that is really necessary. His Majesty is informed that they have almost arrived at the thorn bushes. His Majesty calls out to Orwell, stating that they are about to turn to their last resort. Everyone is informed to get ready. The princess mentions that she appreciates his determination, but what was all the talk about the thorn bushes? There is nothing there as His Majesty is shocked, he mentions. This does not make sense knowing that he was not lying. His Majesty states those third bushes were monstrous and each over 2 meters in length. They tossed around his knights like rag dolls and stabbed them, asking if there were a lot of casualties, but he's told that none of them were killed. The princess also notices a building and questions if that is the Imperial Palace of Croatia, as she has been seeing that building for a while now. She mentions it is literally a stone's throw away as she sighs. His Majesty asks her, does she even know how long it took to get from there to her castle? She responds probably not even half a day. Still he tells her like he said, those torn bushes, she does not even know how vicious they were. She sarcastically responds sure, she asked him. But who is he to complain about their viciousness anyway? He is the true villain for crossing onto her country without permission. From the way he described it, it seems the thorn bushes were more like knights that stood to protect Cyan. He calls out to her and asks her, does she think the river only belongs to the Cyan kingdom? She asks him what is that supposed to mean. He tells her he's saying their situation was dire enough that they had no choice but to forcibly make their way into her country. Had not that been the case? Soria, who looked at the solemn Lennox in silence as if to comfort him, she guesses he has some concerns he'd rather not share, made a run for it the second they arrived at Kortia's imperial palace. She ponders it is not her fault. His Majesty questions if he was mistaken, asking if chickens can fly too. Orwell tells him to please not worry, mentioning that they have people looking for her so she will be found soon. His Majesty questions him if he does not know how many chickens there are in the world. Even if they fail to find her, she will quickly realize how harsh the outside world is. Then she will last only return here on her own. He also tells His Majesty that actually now may the perfect time to bring this to his attention. He asks His Majesty if he is absolutely sure that Chicken is Princess Soria, mistreated when they saw her, but were not they the work of the mage who put a curse on the Cyan Kingdom? As if the case was not enough, damage created the thorn bushes to keep that princess trapped in the castle. But then why would the thorn bushes have cleared the way for her? His Majesty questions if he is trying to say that the chicken might actually be the mage, and that he is posing as Princess Soria. Orwell responds that he simply believes they should not completely rule out that possibility. Questioning does not he think the mage could have gotten trapped in his own curse for over 100 years? Spells can have a different outcome from what the caster intended. Plus, the only proof that they have that she indeed is princess is her own words. His Majesty finds it a headache. Either way, he says that they should just focus on the meeting right now and asks Orwell to go fetch just any white chicken. Orwell asks him why don't they send the nobles home for today and postpone the meeting until they find the princess. He mentions an unmarried, hairless emperor insisted on embarking on this expedition with half a year's budget for the empire. He is sure Orwell knows how important this matter is, so he cannot just tell them to go home now. Orwell asks him to forgive him for his oversight. His Majesty tells him if he understands, then he should go and fetch in a white chicken. Princess is hiding somewhere as she notices those people are servants, those are knights, and those are all nobles. Since there are no heroes or warriors inside, she will just have to settle for a knight. She is looking for a knight, wearing a golden insignia of a hawk. To find him, she needs to go where the Imperial Guard are, which brings her to the Hawk Order. It has been 3 days since Soria ran away from Lennox. Every night screams could be heard from the Hawk Order, and a chilling rumor started going around. A chilling rumor started to circulate regarding the Hawk Order, which provided the closest protection to the Emperor. The maids question if they have heard the rumor. So many knights have already fallen victim. Someone would pull on their lips in the middle of the night and then run away. They wonder what kind of pervert would do such a thing. His Majesty realizes it is Princess Soria. Orwell also agrees with him. All of the affected knights took part in the Cyan expedition. She must have thought one of them could help her. His Majesty is angry on the fact that why would she pull on their lips and then run away? Is that her idea of a kiss? That is not how it happens in all those beautiful fairy tales. Orwell tells him that she's a chicken, so she probably cannot help her. He knows that has given him quite a headache for the past few days. He tells Orwell that if they cannot catch her by regular means, they will need to set a trap. This is sleeping somewhere before she gasps and wakes up happy that no one is around. She knows this has been a complete waste of time, thinking that it really should not be the Emperor who is meant to be the hero who breaks her curse. Realizing that is going to be a problem. That's how is she supposed to sneak into his bedroom? She knows that will only be the very last resort. She decides to go through all the knights first, and if she's still a chicken, only then will she consider a different approach. She tells herself that she has got this and she can do it. It is night time as she thinks. Maybe it is because of the tighter security, but the air feels especially chilling today. She calls out to Sachin, stating that she does not know how many kisses he has had so far, but she is sorry. She will make it quick. As she tries to approach him right then, someone smirks. It is His Majesty as he grabs onto her, turning her. It has been a long time. She begins yelling at him to let her go. She asks him how dare he grab a lady's leg. He responds it is a chicken's leg for now, so there is no issue. Anyway, he believes she and him have some things to discuss. He yells at her, questioning cannot she stay still for 1 second. She asks him what idiot would stay still in this situation. She tells him to let go of her this instant. He puts her in something as she tells him if he does not pull her out of here this second, she will burn this entire sack. He tells Sir before she goes, she ought to think about where she is right now. She questions if he wants her tiny kingdom that badly. He states to tell her the truth, her kingdom is no bigger than a duchy to him. Trust him when he says this. With Croatia taking up 1/3 of the continent, he has no desire to acquire her small plot of land. What he wants is something else. It is the Cyan River that cuts through the center of her kingdom. She questions if he is kidding her. She tells him, like he just said, that river cuts through the center of Cyan, yelling, how is that any different from just wanting her entire kingdom? He asks, just out of curiosity, does she know what state that river is in right now? She responds she is sure it is flowing fine like always. He tells her that he wished that were true. However, the Cyan River stopped flowing more than 50 years ago due to a blockage midstream. She is totally surprised as she questions what, asking if those thorn bushes are responsible. He tells her he does not know the exact cause, but that is their best guess, Either way, it was not as serious a problem just up until 6 months ago. Water does not only come from the earth, it falls from the sky too. She questions if he is experiencing a drought. Yes, he questions if she would believe him if he told her that for the past 6 months, there has not been a single drop of rain in the south. She is totally shocked, realizing that is why the ruler of a great empire personally traveled to a small kingdom that has been neglected for over 100 years. It was for the sake of his people. She asks him, is not he a kind-hearted emperor? He asks her, what does she mean? She tells them that she is saying he is much kinder than she thought. He questions if she really means that. She responds, why would not she? He blushes, telling her he's just doing what any emperor ought to. He realizes no one has ever complimented him like this before. She tells him he must have carried quite a heavy burden until now. She touches him with her feather, and to him, this feels kind of strange. He gets up from his place and steps away. He burst open the door, finding Aurora standing outside. He grabs him and takes him inside. He asks His Majesty what is the matter. That he thinks Aurora was right, that Chicken must be the mage after all. Aurora becomes shocked, questioning what His Majesty then explains what happened to Aurora. Aurora is pretty shocked as he stares at both of them. He states he will make sure to compliment His Majesty regularly from now on, so he should please stop. His Majesty tells him to not twist his words, that Chicken has the ability to manipulate people's emotions. That proves his theory right. Aurora thinks all she did was just compliment him. He asks His Majesty if he is saying this because before His Majesty asks if he honestly thinks he is kind-hearted. Does not realize he is dissing himself. There is silence in the room. Listening to their ridiculous conversation, Soria had this thought. Perhaps the Croatia Empire might see its end soon because a guy cannot even take a compliment. Chen is a proud member of the Hawk Order that protects the Emperor of Croatia lately on top of his rigorous training and work in the daytime. He has also somehow wound up running night shifts, which he does not even get paid for. He is very tired as he ponders. He knows he gives his oath to His Majesty to serve him as his knight. But is not this abuse of authority? He is aware that he even took his room. He knocks on the door and informs His Majesty that he is here. Mentioning that he heard His Majesty wanted to see him at his office, he notices a chicken. His Majesty tells him that he would like to give him an opportunity to not only leave a mark in the Empire's history, but also the history of the entire continent. He wonders what does leaving a mark in history have to do with the princess. His Majesty tells him that he is sure he would have guessed this as a strictly confidential matter that the preservation of the Empire depends on, and questions if he understands. He realizes it is a top-secret mission. Chen tells him he will not tell a soul about this. His Majesty questions if he remembers how they rescued Princess Soria back in the Cyan Kingdom. He responds, of course. His Majesty states he was recently told that this chicken might not actually be the princess, but the mage who cursed her. However, Princess Soria here of course denies it. And thus, Sergeant, he would like to put the fate of the Empire in his hands. Chen wonders what does this mean. His Majesty asks him would he be the hero of them and kiss the princess. This causes him to be totally taken aback. He questions when he says does he mean that he should press his lips on the tip of the beak or on top? A concern that has never occurred to anyone before. The chicken wonders, is not the entire area the mouth? Orwell mentions it does not matter which, so why don't they just get this over with as it's getting quite late? He then states he will go ahead and do it. He takes steps towards her as she wonders if her curse is finally going to be lifted. He kisses her but nothing happens. His Majesty tells him he does not think it is him, stating that it was a good try and he may go now. The princess seems disappointed. His Majesty knows this is getting exhausting. She states yes, it is, and decides to call it a day as she is totally drained so no one should bother her. His Majesty states he will tell her something. He mentions all his life he had no intention of kissing anyone who was not his future empress, whether it be chicken or a person. She questions if Croatia has strict moral standards for royals, then he's probably never even been in a relationship, stating it sounds enough. Her that she is missing the point here. He stands up, mentioning what he is trying to say is that he has decided to break that personal vow. He steps towards her and grabs her face. He questions what if he is the hero that she needs? Then he must sacrifice himself for the Empire. She asks him to let go of her. Orwell closes his eyes as he would not want his eyes to rot witnessing that atrocity. She asks him to go away and call the knights again, and they should start over from the beginning. She wonders if he has been studying the most secure way to grab a chicken as his grip is very strong, wondering why is he holding her so snugly. She yells, no questioning. What the heck is he doing? It kisses her. This causes her to pass out as she wonders if this is her punishment for stealing all those kisses from the knights. She's sorry, but she will make it up to them all someday. She opens her eyes and looks at His Majesty. Both him and Orwell are shocked. She wonders what is wrong. She has no idea. Orwell congratulates him. It's now that he's the hero who has broken a century-old curse. All the people will rejoice and give praise to him. She wonders what does this mean as he has broken the curse, but she knows she's still a chicken. His Majestic questions, does that look like he has broken any kind of curse to her? She has no idea what are they two talking about, asking them to let her know about it too. Orwell tells her it has not been broken completely, but since he can also understand her now, they seem to have made some progress. Even the color of her tail has changed. She realizes it. It makes her surprise. They know that the rest of the curse will soon be lifted. This makes her sad that this guy is the hero. His Majesty tells her he can tell what she's thinking. She asks him how good is his sword play. He responds it is average. He mentions he was about 5 when he realized he was not much of a swordsman. She asks him if his nickname is hero or warrior. He questions who has a nickname like that. She asks him then why is he the person who can break her curse. Of all the people, why it is him. He responds heroes, warriors, knights, they all follow his orders. Thus he is above everyone. She questions, is there a possibility that Chen's kiss took effect a little late? Orwell responds that he very much doubt that. She does not believe this and goes into depression. Orwell also tells His Majesty, seeing as it is a woman's voice, he thinks this really is Princess Soria. His Majesty responds that there is no guarantee that the mage is not actually a woman. This could also just be a man with a high-pitched voice. He tells Orwell that he ought to be more open-minded. He's getting a bad feeling about this. Mentioning this could be a cunning strategy by the mate who is counting on their vulnerability to stereotypes. The princess asks him what the cluck is he talking about. She mentions that she has had enough of his damn nonsense. Orwell thinks that they sure can keep themselves entertained. Once again, Orwell thought about writing a letter of resignation. His Majesty asks the princess, does she think the river only belongs to the Cyan Kingdom? She responds, of course not, the river that runs through the center of Cyan is a gift from nature. The kingdom was merely boring in it. Then for the royals of Cyan who could not take care of the river at all due to their century-long curse. How much of this disaster should be their responsibility? She asks His Majesty to forgive her because as the princess of the Cyan Kingdom she should have taken better care of the river. If there's anything she can do to help alleviate the growth before he states she does not need to worry about that. Of course, it would help greatly with their farming situation if it rained or if the Cyan River started flowing again. However, the aquatic have not dried out yet, so it will do the job for now. He tells her to not be too hard on herself, and they should talk about this in more detail tomorrow as it is late now. They should both go to bed. This is what he said, but he's staying up all night, and the Cyan's curse has traveled through the Cyan River to infect them as well. He questioned why would a curse that hesitate quiet for over 100 years come for them now. But it was told that this 6-month-long drought has elected much rage among the people. They need to make an offering, and they should sacrifice that chicken to appease God's wrath, a sacrifice ritual in this day and age. He found it an absolute hogwash, thinking an incompetent official has no place here. After some time, the maid presents the princess. She is wearing pretty jewelry. Laugh as the maid tells him to not do that. He cannot stop laughing as the chicken finds it very humiliating, mentions that it is good timing as she wanted to talk to him about something. He asks her about what. She tells him that she has been thinking all night and she believes there is another way to deal with this drought. He asks her does it appear in any of the spell books that she wrote. She responds that is right. He hurries and looks for it, mentioning that he would very much appreciate if she could explain all these texts to him, starting with what language they are written in. Of course he would not know as word mage would write a spell book without placing a huge safety measures. She asks him to look closely. Right then, the book begins to shine. They wonder what's going on in the world. She ends up coming to her human form as she's shocked. Just for a short time, His Majesty knows. He supposes that was a very memorable portrait. He asked Orwell if she was pretty before he mentions he is joking and asks Sir what is the issue. He questions that he was the one who kissed her, so how come the curse was only partly broken? Asking he ought to know the answer as an imperial mage, right? Because it was not a case of true love. That is what Orwell tells him. His Majesty asked Sir, what does this mean? Questioning what is going on and finds it ridiculous. Orwell, married for love 3 years ago and already has 2 kids, Orwell asks him, wouldn't it be nice to take this opportunity to finally give their empire an empress? If you could break that old curse and make the last surviving royal of the Cyan Kingdom his empress, his story will be passed down for generations to come, and words will sing song about it. And it will be recorded as a one-of-a-kind love story in history books. His Majesty calls out to Orwell, mentioning that he is curious. He is not secretly enjoying this, is he? Orwell responds, of course knows. He simply have not forgotten how much help and thoughtful advice he gave him back when he was still only dating his wife. His Majesty mentions, but his face says otherwise and states actually, now that he thinks about it, Orwell owes everything to him. It has been 5 years and he did fall into that lake. But still, that was how it all started. He responds that he is aware of that, and so he should do everything in his power to return the favor. Orwell asks him at this point. If not, he's starting to get exhausted trying to pick a noble lady to take as his empress. His Majesty questions what is Princess Soria doing right now. He is told that she is grieving. It must have been devastating for her to return to her chicken farm again. She refuses to come out of her room. Orwell asks him why doesn't he go and check up on her. His Majesty thinks he is actually being serious. What made him have a change of heart? Orwell tells him that Princess Soria suggested a way to solve the drought problem in the south. Honestly, he believes it should be taken into serious consideration because she is a grand mage and last surviving royal, and this should be the smoothest way to make Cyan a part of the Croatia Empire. His Majesty mentions that he's not wrong, but there's one thing he failed to take into account. Orwell questions, what could it be? He responds, it is him. He completely disregarded him. His Majesty mentions that Orwell completely disregarded him, questioning is Croatia in such a desperate state where he needs to marry the princess. Orwell mentions if they waive out the pros and cons. His Majesty mentions that he supposes he could be forced into marrying her, but since this is his marriage they're talking about, should not he get a say in it? He tells Orwell that the world does not always go the way one wants, especially when it comes to matters such as these. His Majesty steps in, questioning if the princess isn't there. She seems pretty depressed. He asks her if she did tell Orwell about the spell that can end the drought, and he was thanking her for it. And none of his words are reaching her right now. He sits on the side wondering what should he do. He takes something out as he mentions. He is not sure if he can call this a token of gratitude. But here is the treaty he mentioned before. It states that Cyan will be acknowledged as an independent country, and that Croatia will respect all its rights. Although it won't go into effect until her curse is broken and the Cyan River starts flowing again. She responds, of course, and asks His Majesty if he has ever been in love. His Majesty becomes shocked, wondering if he heard it right. She asks him if he knows what true love is. He questions why is she asking that all of a sudden. She questions is not it too abstract, but even is true love, is there some way to measure it? True love accomplished. Does one have to reach a certain point for his love to be considered true? She becomes angry at the match. If only he was still alive, she would have wrung that neck of his. His Majesty asks her, so what is it that is making her sad right now? Questioning, is it the abstract nature of true love? She yells, of course, it is way too ambiguous. It's really angry. His Majesty is aware that there really is not a single person who cares about how he feels. He clenches his fist as he ponders. He is sorry to break it to her, but he has absolutely no thoughts of throwing himself into that true love of hers. He wonders if he should tell her to look for someone else, but he's aware there is no one as she can only communicate with certain people, and it seems to be limited to just mages. But mage is a dying art these days. If only Orwell were not married. He continuously thinks about it before he reaches out to her and tells her he will ask her one question. He questions if she is prepared to face any ordeal that comes her way if it means breaking her curse. She wonders why is he so serious all of a sudden. She glances at him. She tells him yes because she has no other options. He does her then, it is worth a try. She questions what is that he's trying to say. He mentions that right now his heart is full of love. She wonders what does that mean. He tells her if she can go back to her human form for 5 minutes per kiss, about 100 cases should break the curse completely. Does not she think he decides they should put the 100 kisses test today? She's totally taken aback as she questions if he has lost his damn mind. He tells her that he is being serious. A woman tells His Majesty that everyone is rooting for him. It is Lady Maybelline. She is the top noble of high society and Orwell's wife. His Majesty glares at her and asks her, where did she hear about that? He thinks there's an arrogant snitch in his face. She asks him to stop. She's also the Emperor's advisor, whom everyone fears. She mentions there are dozens of people who witnessed him going into the princess room only to be kicked out along with the sounds of enraged chuckling. She tells him, but that is beside the point, as several ladies are already saying that Princess Soria will make the perfect empress. She asks him if he remembers what he said to Lady Cherian. He thinks about Lady Cherian, asking who is that. He questions if he has said something to offend her in any way. Most people would be quite offended to be asked if they could kill their own father. He spells the T. He mentions that as a misunderstanding. He said she was willing to abandon her own family to become his empress, so he just wanted to test her resolve. She tells him that rumors don't usually care about context. Although, if one asks her, the fact that he would humor this kind of conversation at all already shows that he's a good ruler. The previous emperor used very strategic parenting to raise Lennox into the man he is now. He made him be friends with all the duke's sons when he was young, and sent him to war once he came of age. The main reason he could endure the battlefield was because he had his friends. His reign is the result of meticulous planning, so she gets why every man is careful about choosing his empress as well. Then are the noble ladies in support of Princess Soria? She would not go so far as to say that. But everyone is worried about the drought in the south, saying that breaking Sion's curse should be of the utmost importance. His Majesty mentions he did not know that the ladies thought of him this little. She mentions it is not like that. It is more that as the people of this empire, they simply wish for their seemingly cold emperor to finally find his match. They all cannot wait for the drought in the south to end.